Welcome to Downshift. My name is Matt and I have spent the week with Toyota's probably least known SUV. This is their new Crown Signia for 2025 and it kind of slots in between the RAV4 and the Highlander in its lineup, and it competes against things like Nissan Muranos, Mazda CX-70s, and those sort of things. And today I'm going to walk you around and show you the best and the rest of the Toyota Crown Signia. Let's get into it. Now the first thing we have to talk about is the trunk, and it's objectively good, but it's not great. Like for one, you get a power liftgate as standard, which is great, and with the rear seats up, you're looking at 25 cubic feet of space, which is surprisingly kind of low given what the footprint looks like. But that's because the roofline is so low, so you're not getting that vertical measurement like you would in a more conventional SUV shape. There's also no grocery bag hangers back here, but you can drop the rear seats from the trunk, which is nice, and the seats fold nice and flat. And the back of the back seats even have a little extender to make the floor nice and flush all the way up to the back of the front seats when they're folded down. You get 6.5 feet long for the cargo area with the seats down, and the measurement is 67 cubic feet of space. The Nissan Murano has a little bit less, but the CX-70 from Mazda definitely has more. But the bigger problem is the little brother RAV4 has more trunk space, at least by the numbers. And the other sort of con that we have to talk about has to do with price. Now, like I said, this kind of replaces the Venza in Toyota's lineup, and that Venza was kind of that in between the RAV4 and the Highlander, and also between Toyota and Lexus in terms of like luxury. So it was a little bit more of a bespoke product than what you would usually expect, which is fine, but the problem is the Venza started at $35,000. And the Crown Signia starts at $43,500, which makes it then start over not just the RAV4, but also the Highlander that's a size above it and gets you another row of seats. And here we're in the Limited, which starts at $48,000, and as tested, we're just over $51K. And then there's just a handful of little nitpicks, as there are with pretty much any car. Like for one, it's a little weird that there's no head-up display. I mean, this is supposed to be the Lexus light vehicle, and you can get a head-up display in a RAV4, but not here in the Crown Signia. And you still have Toyota's Egg mode, which is still the most useless feature in any car, but I guess it doesn't hurt anyone that it's here. But the other kind of useless feature is this EV mode button. It does work at very light throttle and under like 20-24 miles an hour, but the car will also put itself into EV mode, as you see it just did there, depending on what it thinks will be the most efficient. If the battery's got enough charge, if you're not demanding too much throttle or torque, then it'll do it for itself. So this isn't super useful. And another Lexus light thing I might expect to see is a third zone of climate for the rear seats. You've got vents, which is cool, but you don't have an individual climate zone. And this car replaces the Venza, which had a super cool electrochromic frosting of the panoramic roof. This has a nice panoramic roof, but it doesn't have that electrochromic feature, which was kind of cool. And you go to settings, lights, where you would typically see your ambient light controls, but there's really nothing here, which is just kind of lame. And there's a prop rod for the hood, which I would expect struts for something like this. But those are just tiny little nitpicks, so with those covered, let's talk about all the great things about the Crown Signia, because there's a lot. But one of the things I really like about the Crown Signia is just how efficient it is. Now the Crown Signia is hybrid only, and it's the same 2.5 liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder that we're familiar with from Toyota. It's the same engine under the hood of my RAV4. The difference here is it makes 240 horsepower, which is about 21 more than you would get in a RAV4. It's also good for 36 mpg combined, but we did our Lakeshore Loop fuel economy test and it came back with 42.1, so properly efficient, and that was at 21 degrees ambient temperature, so it's going to get even better as it warms up. So it's easily the most efficient among its rivals, CX-70, Nissan Murano, etc. There is no hybrid max 2.4 turbo, but personally I'm fine with that. We're still doing 0 to 60 in under 8 seconds, and it's still more powerful than the Venza it replaces and the RAV4. It's got about exactly the same power as a Nissan Murano and a little bit less. Well, less than the CX-70. But I don't really care about the power here. It's powerful enough to do what I want it to do, but I am just really impressed with the fuel economy that you get here real world, even in conditions like this. But then there's the driving experience, which I've really, really enjoyed, especially considering I own a RAV4 hybrid, and there's a lot of mechanical similarities going on here. You get all-wheel drive here in the Crown Signia as standard, which is nice, but there's another level of refinement built into the Crown Signia that you don't have in the RAV4. It's way more refined. There's a lot less NVH coming into the cabin. You've got acoustic glass throughout the cabin, and it just kind of rides better too. The damping has been reprogrammed and kind of tuned for this Crown Signia. This is super, super comfortable. It's easy to drive. The steering makes sense. The braking is linear and organic. The visibility is pretty good despite this not riding up so high and being so upright like a traditional kind of RAV4 SUV style shape. This is a little bit more relaxed. I feel like I'm sitting a little bit lower down. I feel like I'm a little bit more connected to the road. I feel like this handles a little bit better. And it's just more sussed out, especially when we talk about the powertrain. One of the things that I notice in my RAV4 is I can actually, kind of notice when it goes from EV to gas. When the gas engine kicks in after some EV stuff, if I demand too much throttle or torque, then I can feel that little torque kick or jump as the engine starts to come in. You gotta really look for it to feel it in the Crown Signia. So it's the same kind of 4th generation Toyota hybrid system, but it seems a little bit smoother. It seems a little bit more refined and definitely a little bit more Lexus. But then when it comes to styling, I really do like the look of this thing. Now, we've got a pretty familiar hammerhead face that we're seeing in Toyota's newest generation of cars, like the Crown or the Prius, and I suspect this is kind of what the front end of the new RAV4 will look like when we get it later this year. You've got LED runners, but they're not a full C shape as it might suggest, and you've got a separate projector down low. We do have that body-colored grille, which kind of gradients in almost a spindle fashion, again, feeling very Lexus. You got 5 colors to choose from, and your wheels go up to 21 inches, which is what we have here. They look kind of like that $1,500 optional wheel like you would see on the Camry that I really, really liked. But zooming out, the profile looks more long wagon than it does SUV, and I really kind of like it. The whole body, the whole length of the body seems kind of flared, which is just kind of cool. It's also significantly bigger than the Venza, so it makes sense to reintroduce it with a new name like this. You got a rear full-width tail bar, which reminds me of the Maserati Grecale, and I think it looks great. Me personally, I might have it in white, but leave it down in the comments what you think looks better, the Crown Signia or a Mazda CX-70. And then in terms of the back seats, they're pretty comfortable back here. I've got loads of knee room in front of me. I do have a little bit less headroom than I would in something like a RAV4, just because of the more tapered wagon-esque roofline or profile shape from the outside. But even with this big panoramic roof, I still have plenty of headroom here. They're also just really comfortable. You've got heated seats back here. You don't get window shades, but you've got vents, chargers, map pockets, cup holders, pretty much everything that you could want. And then in terms of the cabin experience, another shining point of this Crown Signia versus something like a RAV4 or even a Highlander where it kind of slots in between. In terms of the seats, you've got beautiful saddle brown seats here with some gold contrasted piping. They're perforated. You've got 3-level heated, 3-level cooled, and you have the kind of climate concierge thing. So you can leave it in auto, and then the car will read the ambient temperature, the temperature inside the cabin as well, and kind of adjust your seat to what you need. Now, obviously, it's incredibly snowy and crappy because it's February in Wisconsin, so it's been putting my heated seat on for me. And they get nice and hot, nice and quick. Same thing with the steering wheel. There's 2 levels of heating, and that also has a climate concierge function that I think they borrowed from Lexus, but it's really, really nice to have the car kind of take care of that stuff for you. But overall, the cabin design, really pretty nice. Again, genuine leather, not soft text, but you've got gold accents throughout the cabin. Everything's kind of leather wrapped. The way that the door card kind of turns into the dash and kind of encapsulates you a little bit, that's very Lexus RX of it. You've got 2 interior colors. Again, this is probably kind of my favorite, but it's just pretty decent materials. The ergonomics make sense. There's still physical buttons and tactility for things like your climate controls, your heated seats. You've got nice buttons here on the steering wheel that don't have to interact with your head-up display because you don't have one. But that's one of the things that people don't really love about the Lexuses. So overall, it's just a nice cabin with nice materials, and it's built well. So good job, Toyota. And then in terms of technology, you've got pretty much everything that you could expect, except for one thing. And that one thing is you don't get a head-up display, which is just a little bit interesting, seeing as you can get one in a RAV4. But you do get a fully digital instrument cluster, which is great, shows you everything that you could want to see. And then you've got a 12.3-inch center infotainment screen. It's Toyota's system that we've covered a number of times. Wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, dual Bluetooth connection, over-the-air updates. You've even got a digital rear-view mirror above and 360 cameras below, which look fantastic. And of course, you can change the color of the car. You've got a wireless charger, which is vertical, and I actually really do like that, even as just a place to put your phone. You've got several drive modes and the EV mode that we talked about. But when it comes to your safety suite, you've got Toyota Safety Sense 3.0 as standard. So it's got the little eyeball watcher, so you can leave your hands off the wheel when you're on the highway a little bit longer. But again, always pay attention. Little eyeball watcher can be a little bit annoying at times, but overall it's a good system, and all of the tech here is pretty good, generally speaking. So definitely a pro. Hey guys, real quick, Matt here. Just wanted to say I hope you've been enjoying the video. If you have, would really appreciate you hitting that subscribe button. I know it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it does go a long way in helping us get access to cars sooner and get access to manufacturer engineers so we can get more information on the cars and get you more information so you can make better decisions. So would really appreciate you hitting that subscribe, like, comment, the whole YouTube thing. But with that, let's get back to the video. Crown Signia. Obviously that's not what it's for. It's not for launches, but you do have 240 horsepower, which is more than a RAV4. It's about exactly the same as a Nissan Murano and less than a Mazda CX-70. But the Mazda CX-70 is like crazy expensive and pretty big. So again, we kind of look at this segment, there's kind of like fringe competitors. There's things like the Nissan Murano, which is new, just had a go in, and it's pretty nice, different, but pretty nice. This is a more wagon-esque interpretation of the class. The Murano's more kind of classic CUV, SUV shape. And then there's the CX-70, which is just a CX-90 with the back, or the third row taken out, so it's also significantly more expensive. And then there's the Subaru Outback, which is wagonish, but also a lot more off-roady. So this does fill a spot that's not currently filled. I don't know how many people, I think the market has shown us that we don't really want wagons, but personally, I love wagons. So I really like this thing. I think it looks cool. Some of the standouts for me this week were the fact that it looks cool. It looks really good. I like the styling. It's clean, it's modern, it's elegant. It looks pretty expensive, kind of that bridged gap between Toyota and Lexus that we've been talking about the whole time. And then you come into the cabin and it's the same thing. Real, genuine leathers, gold stitching, contrasting and gold piping in the steering wheel, across the dash. The dash molds around you. Genuine leathers, heated and cooled seats, heated steering wheel, climate concierge. I mean, this is like Lexus level stuff. It doesn't quite feel Lexus in here, but it's close enough to the point where I'm like, I own a RAV4 hybrid. And again, we'll do kind of a head-to-head video between this and the RAV4 hybrid. But this cabin is in another universe compared to the RAV4 cabin that I have. It's just nicer. It's more modern, it's sleek, and it's well designed without losing the physical tactility of physical buttons. And I love that. My wife loves that. Every human I've ever talked to about modern cabins in cars loves to have the physical buttons. The cup holders are in the right spot. They're not pushed up in front of the shifter, so if you have a tall water bottle, or just even a normal water bottle, it's not resting up against the dash. It's just well and cleverly done. But then the driving experience, smooth. The RAV4 Plus, you know, it's the same basic engine, but it does feel a little bit more sussed out. It's a little bit more smooth. It's a little bit more refined. There's more cabin isolation going on, so there's less powertrain noise. And we know this Toyota powertrain can sound a little bit coarse or kind of loud, needlessly loud, but this kind of quiets some of that back in a really kind of nice way. I've got different I've got loads of I mean, there's really nothing going on here that I don't like. It looks cool, great back seat space, great trunk space, technically less than some rivals, but I think in real world application, you're getting a very, very good product here. Toyota reliability. Is it too much money? Maybe, not sure, but it's Japanese built. I know that's important to some of you. I don't know, it's a compelling thing. I really like it. I really like it. I liked it earlier last year when I drove it at Road America when it first came out, and I like it here, now that I've spent a week with it. So thank you to Toyota for letting me have a go in your Crown Signia. Thank you to you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.